You are listening to the Effective Statistician Podcast, a weekly podcast with Alexander Schach, Benjamin Pieske, and Sam Gardner, designed to help you reach your potential, lead great science, and serve patients without becoming overwhelmed by work. This is a replay of your personal development and business goals, how to start this year by having relevant discussions with your supervisor. It's still relevant. If you haven't listened to this episode yet, this is the right time to listen to it. Have fun. Welcome to another episode. I'm talking today again with Benjamin. How are you doing?
Oh, very, very well. Thanks, Alex. It's good. It's been a while that we talked. So it's really good having a nice topic today to discuss and see what our experience is.
Yeah. The topic kind of is sparking from a discussion I had quite a long time ago, but it was in my mind for quite some time. You know, sometimes you have these kind of discussions and these questions that kind of keep coming up in your mind because they are so important. And I once had a discussion with a more senior, more experienced statistician at the time. And he was asking, you know, if at work you need to make a decision, you can decide what's best for the company or what's best for your personal development, for your, promotion and things like that. What would you decide for the company or whether you advance personally? And I thought quite a lot about it. And I thought, okay, why would you need to decide? In which kind of situation would you need to decide between one and the other? Benjamin, do you have any experience in that regard? Any story, any situation that comes to your mind?
Well, yeah, no, I would have asked probably the same question, though I think that being a line manager for quite a while now, I think that is quite often the case, that people think they have to take a decision between either company goals or individual goals. Mm-hmm. And that is, I don't have like a real story for this. It's just more my experience where I often try to understand, as you said, it's why do we have to decide? Because I would have expected people to understand what the company goals are and, kind of fit I wouldn't say fit, but maybe align a little bit their goals to it. I didn't usually get to the point because it was for me always quite important to make it clear to them. And sometimes they didn't even think about it, that the company goals are actually kind of a framework. I mean, if you work in a company, it's all around. So the company has a goal, should have a goal. And you and your position, whatever your position is part of it. So, and you sometimes, and you often have the feeling, or you probably have often the feeling that whatever you would like to achieve, the company doesn't offer you. So, which is where people struggle and need to decide whether one or the other. But actually, my experience is that they didn't even check whether their goal fits into this. Because as a pure example, if they think that there is no promotion possible, so how can we, and their personal goal is going for promotion. Did they ever check and did they ever make a plan of when and why should they be promoted? So give the company the opportunity to react on this, or their manager, line manager, or head of the department, etc., and align to the goal. That is something where I struggled with, that people often think individually and don't think company.
Yeah.
And this is exactly, I think, the discrepancy that you just described, saying that, what should I decide, that one or this one? But what I found out is just a little bit of ignorance for people, or maybe also like inexperienced people that do not think or like combine both of them together.
Yeah, of course, I think to get even into thinking about this decision, you need to be clear about the company goals and you need to be clear about your own goals. Yeah,
absolutely.
So if you're not clear on both of these, then you'll never even face this decision. But I completely agree. It's it should be really, really rare that this comes up. Yeah, because in planning your personal goals, you should, in your position, be possible to align them with the company goals. And to make sure that you're working on projects that help you to move forward, that help you to develop yourself, that help you to work towards your strengths, so that when it's time for promotion, you have all the case studies that show how you contributed value to the company. So how did you work to progress to help the company?
No, absolutely. I think that is the point where I think we touched on the topic like before, and also one of our podcasts to talk about the goals, and I think that is something where I still see room for improvement. Let's put it this way, because you can't expect that all the goals are being rolled out to you from the company wise. So this is something where you also have to understand a little bit more about the company, which is like talking about CRO business. Like the first thing is, for example, financial aspects of your study. So when you are responsible for a study and responsible for the resourcing, responsible for the tasks, so it's utmost important to understand what impact it has to have a good running, like financially well planned and running study, because this is the foundation of like a CRO business. I mean, actually any business, but in CRO business, it's more financially organized than maybe on the pharma side or like on the study side. So that is something that you have to basically dig into the topics of understanding why the specific goals that we maybe get rolled out in the yearly goal setting from the company are important, and what is the part that you are contributing to. I mean, in theory, you should be contributing to all of the goals being rolled out, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense. But that is the piece where you need to engage yourself to understand what the goals are. That's the one side. And the other side, that is more the point where probably would be more interested and think more, or maybe are happy to spend more time, is about individual goals. And that is, but in overall, whatever goal it is, you need to spend time, you need to dedicate your time, some of your time, to understand the goals and work on your goals. You set your goals and do the first step really in getting the goals, in your mind or on the paper or in the system whatsoever, to work towards your goals. And once you do this, there shouldn't be a discrepancy between company goals and individual goals.
Yeah. And if there is, and there's quite a big difference, then probably you're in the wrong position.
Yeah. Or in the wrong company. Yeah.
Or the wrong company. Yeah. And then you need to have completely different discussion with your supervisor.
Yeah.
But or with your recruiter.
No, but talking about the supervisor, I think there's also like an underestimated point in the whole puzzle, maybe, to say that if you don't think this is both fitting together, there's a gap that needs to be closed. It's your supervisors, the number one, the go-to person, to close this gap. It's, as we said before, like about promotion, for example. So if you have the feeling that there isn't anything that you can, where you can proceed or, work towards a promotion, or even there's a position open or something is not being offered. So who is the person that could possibly offer this to you? or could work with their management on offering it to you, or maybe to find opportunities that you are looking for, which you're not aware of. Maybe even the supervisor isn't aware of, but he's the one or she is the one to then work on this. It's their responsibility to close the gap.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily yours.
Yeah, that is where I always start with my discussions about goal setting with people. I always ask kind of, what are your personal goals? Yeah. Where do you want to, how do you want to develop in the next couple of years? Yeah. What strengths do you want to further develop? What kind of rate limiting weaknesses do you want to close? Yeah. And with rate limiting weaknesses, I think of kind of what are those things that you need to improve so that your strengths can fully blossom. Yeah. So it's, I don't know, maybe kind of you have a specific behavior that upsets people. Yeah. And I had that in the past. Yeah. And so I was working on my supervisor to, improve that. Because that was really the one thing that whenever it was time for discussions about promotions, that kind of thing would come up. Yeah. And would,
push you back.
Yeah. And, then you can, walk over water, but it doesn't matter. So that's really, really important. And have a good understanding about what are your strengths, what are your rate limitations, and have a discussion with your supervisor about it. Yeah. With your mentor about it. Potentially, that's also something like a skip level supervisor discussion. How do they see what kind of skills are needed, and that you could work on. Yeah. So try to think about that, and if you set your goals, don't set your goals like, I want to get to this position. Yeah. In terms of, I want to become the group leader of that group, or I want to be in exactly that position or whatsoever. Yeah. Think about it more kind of in terms of, what do you would like to work on? What are kind of the areas? Because, positions change all the time. Yeah. Maybe that position isn't there anymore in 2 years because of a restructuring. Yeah, because maybe that position is filled with a very capable person and you'll never get it because that person sits there for the next 20 years. Yeah. So think about it more from a capabilities point of view.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. It's really, it's also something that I encourage people to do, to really put, work on their, where do you see yourself in a 1 year, 2 years time whatsoever? And then what do you need to do to get there? Or what do you need to stop doing to get there? So, and that is, but still, I think that is something where every individual needs to take time. I know time is a precious good, but it's something where one doesn't work without the other. And I think the importance of these goal setting and aligning the strategy, your individual strategy with the company strategy, is important for like a long-term relationship that you desire, or that you possibly desire. I mean, depending on what your plans are. But that is really where I ask, or we need to encourage every individual to work on, including myself. So it's whenever the goal setting is, whether you think about doing something, so where do you see yourself? So what are your goals in a 1 year, 2 years time, and how do we structure them getting there? And as simple as this.
Yeah, and I think it's really important because for example, if you go for vacation, yeah, you don't just jump in your car and drive off. Yeah, it's kind of, you plan, what do you want to do in vacation? Yeah, do we want to go to the beach, to the mountains, to city sightseeing or whatsoever? Yeah, what's our goal? And then we decide on the destination, we plan everything. And then we go into the car.
Yeah, it's a good example.
But at work, I sometimes have the people, the kind of perception, people just jump into the car, drive off, and then, wonder why they are kind of going in circles or don't end up anywhere, because, then you just end up where other people tell you. Yeah. And there's always kind of some flexibility in terms of what are the best projects to work on. Yeah. Is it, do you want to work on this big study, where you will be responsible for a very, very specific task, and you can, or area where you can really kind of excel there? Maybe, you need to, there's this patient-reported outcome that needs to be developed, and you want to work on the validation and all these kind of different things because you're really curious about that area. Or is there a smaller study that you can run completely by yourself because you want to get the feeling of how it is to completely own a study? Yeah. And then maybe that's not the, big, sexy phase 3 study, but it's, maybe a more smaller study, or not as important study. What are your goals? Yeah. It always comes back to that. Otherwise, you just spend your time at work and you're busy. You do a lot of things, but they are all not, going in the right direction and not going in the same direction.
Yep.
Yeah. If you do 100 steps in every direction, you don't move very fast. But if most of these steps are largely aligned with your goal, they don't need to be all on the straight line. They're never on the straight line, but that really, really pushes you forward.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And that's why I think, to go back to your initial question about whether to focus on business or self-development, I mean, that is not a real question. Yeah. It shouldn't be a real question. So it's...
if you have that problem, then you need to think about the goals. Yeah. And you need to think about your position or your company.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. I think this is like reoccurring, and my feeling is that more and more, that people are, a little bit, I wouldn't say annoyed, but unsecure in how to deal with the goal setting and doing things. And I think really work with your supervisor. Request this from your supervisor to work on the goals, to really put something in writing and make a plan and align the goals. And then we get to all the next steps. So we basically, what we discussed in the previous episode is about breaking the goals down into, different steps and put them put them into a nice structure and having it well organized, and then break it down into your, weekly, even daily, plans, and so to understand that you're not leaving the path, so that the number of steps that are not going towards the goal is rather limited. So that is something, then that's the second step. But in general, first step, and this is what we're talking about today, is really bringing the goals, or making more, thinking more about the goals in general, and aligning them to whatever company goals you have and whatever individual goals you desire.
Yeah. And in terms of, being put on the right project, that helps your supervisor to make sure that the right people work on the right jobs. Yeah. I had worked once with a supervisor, and she said, I have this person in my team who's really, really good from a methodological point of view. So whenever there's something kind of tricky coming up, something that requires more research, deep thinking, collaboration with more experienced statisticians, these hard mathematical statistical problems, I give it to this person because that's what he loves. And other persons in her team didn't love it. Yeah, they wanted to do more work on other things. So great. Yeah, you make sure you get the right people on the right project, and that helps everybody. Yeah. Same in a lead team that I was in for quite some time, on a reoccurring basis. Yeah, we would have discussions about, okay, is everybody sitting in the right position? Yeah. So whenever we on an at least annual basis, we would look into all the different people. There's always some kind of turnover. There's some new people joining. And, whenever there's, this kind of change in people and also the change in portfolio, you need to look into all the different people that you have and see how best you can, put this puzzle together. Yeah. So on the one hand, you have all your projects, and this also includes any kind of initiatives. Yeah. And stuff like this. And on the other hand, you have all the different people with different skill sets, and good lead teams. Yeah. Look across all the different groups and make sure that the right people sit in the right spots. And if that means that Fred and Anne needs to switch the teams, well, then they switch teams. Yeah.
But to understand what the right skill set is, you have to tell your supervisor what your goals are. Because that is the tricky part. If I, as a supervisor, think you are the right person, you may be able to do this. But if this is your goal, if this is putting you into a happy position, that's a different story. So that's why the goal setting, we have to emphasize what do you want to achieve, what do you want to do, what is your strength, so what is what you love, what is what you hate. So if you don't like things, and if you're good at, I will put you into the position because you're good at this. But if I don't know that you don't like it.
Yeah. And then everybody loses because everybody is frustrated. The supervisor is frustrated because he doesn't get the results and has these kind of difficult discussions. And the team member is frustrated because he's not working on the things that makes fun for him. Yeah.
So that's the that is and that's also like kind of the tricky part. Being a supervisor is kind of giving the right support. So even you try. There's always the dependency on the individual. So if the individual doesn't make up the mind and think about the goal setting, think about what they would like to achieve individually, the supervisor is very limited to help. And so can't help you to align the goals to the company goals, to even make it possible that you can reach your individual goals. So that's very so these are no separate positions or separate responsibilities. They all belong together into one working function, and that's very interesting but tricky part to work on.
Yeah. Okay, we talked a lot about now personal goal setting, company goal setting, different opportunities, and how to clarify all these. Yeah. How do you need to explore your own strengths and limitations. You need to see kind of what are the different projects that best fit your development goals, and make these all aligned so that in the next weeks, months, years, you're progressing in one direction, towards your goals. And so if you haven't had that discussion with your supervisor yet, or, you're even maybe not clear about what are your strengths and limitations, then
it's time now.
Yeah, time is now. There's there's always, now is much, yesterday is better, but today is better than tomorrow. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, thanks so much. Have a nice time and talk to you again.
Bye-bye.
This show was created in association with PSI. Thanks to Rain, who helps with the show in the background, and thank you for listening. Head over to theeffectivestatistician.com to learn more about this podcast, to boost your career, and to find many more free resources. And please tell others about it as well, so they can benefit from it too. Reach your potential, lead great science, and serve patients. Just be an effective statistician.